guys, how's it going? Welcome to our Thursday live cooking show. Hope you're having a great day so far. Today I'm doing something I've actually never done on the channel before, and that is, or on the Facebook group before, and that is I'm doing a live 30-minute meal prep with you. So if you've been following along, my online course called 30-Minute Meal Prep is now live. You can go to the website and you can check it out. And what's really cool about that is this whole course is designed to teach you how to meal prep multiple meals in only 30 minutes. So I know a lot of people think that with meal prepping, you have to spend hours and hours on a Sunday cooking all of the meals forever, basically for the entire week. I think that you do not have to do that. So for me, I want to meal prep in 30 minutes, multiple meals, and I'm going to actually show you a few tips and tricks that will lead you into the method that I use in the course for how I do it, and this is very exciting. So guys, make sure you let me know if you're watching here live or you're watching on the replay. I'd be very interested to hear what you think. But today for our meal prep, we're going to be making two different meals, and this is my first trick for you. So if you're taking notes, get out your pen, pencil, and your paper right now. But my first tip for you when you're meal prepping is to use one ingredient two different ways, and that's going to save you so much time. So today I decided to use a very humble main protein, and that is ground meat. I'm actually using ground deer because we have deer. You could use ground beef, you could use ground turkey, whatever you have. But I kind of feel like when you have ground meat, a lot of the times you kind of fall back to like spaghetti or, what's it called? I forget. But basically like spaghetti or meatballs or things like that use ground meat. And I wanted to show you two very different ways to use ground meat instead of spaghetti or meatballs or sloppy joes was what I was thinking of. There's so many different things you can do with ground meat that are totally different flavor profiles, so you'll never feel like you're eating the same meals over and over again. So we're going to do two things today with that ground meat. The first is going to be what I'm calling a beef and broccoli. So if you're using beef, it would obviously be beef. We're using deer. So in our case, it's a deer and broccoli, kind of like what you would get at a Chinese restaurant. And so it's going to be super flavorful, lots of yummy, savory flavors in there. And then the second thing we're doing with our ground meat is I'm going to make taco meat, and taco meat can obviously be used in tacos. You could use it on a taco salad like we've done before on the Facebook group. I think that this is such a fun way to show that one ingredient, one main protein, can literally be used multiple different ways for totally different flavors. So the first thing we're going to do is actually start off with one of our sides. So for both of the meals, one of the sides is going to be rice. So in this bowl, this pot, I have some rice and some water, and I just measured it out how you normally would. So 1 pot rice to 2 pots water. And we're going to start cooking this on the stove. So I'm just going to go put it on the stove. If you have a rice cooker, you could totally do that. I'm just going to bring it up to a boil and then reduce the heat down to low and let it simmer until all of the water has been absorbed by the rice. So let me do that now. I'll be right back. Just going to put it on the stove, kick the heat up to high, and then put the lid on. And so I have to kind of keep an eye on that, otherwise it will overflow. So just keep in the back of your mind that you got to watch the rice, unless you're using a rice cooker, and then it will do it for you. And then, because my stove's over there, I want you to be able to see everything. I actually have an electric skillet next to me, and I'm turning that up to a medium-high heat. And once it gets to heat, we're going to use it to brown all of the meat. So what's really cool about this method is we're going to brown all of the meat in the skillet and then separate it in half to season it. So what's really great, you don't need 2 pans, you can just use 1 pan, and it's super easy, plus less cleanup. So let me cut open this package of ground meat. And if you didn't want to use ground meat, then by all means, go ahead and use what you might normally have, such as, if you had sirloin steak or other cuts of meat, that would be a great option as well. So I'm just going to squeeze out some of the meat from this packaging. There we go. And it's starting to get hot already. I'm going to pull out the little piece of paper from there and let this brown. And then in order to get it to brown faster, what you want to do is break up the meat. So it's not in one big lump. You want to break it up so that more of the meat gets in contact with the hot skillet. So that's going to help it to cook really, really fast. And so what I'm doing is I'm using about 2 pounds of meat right here. You can obviously do more or less depending on how many people are in your family or how many meals you're trying to make. And that's just a really easy tip as well. if you know that you're only going to be at home for a couple days of the week, and then you're going to be eating out, then by all means reduce the amount of meat that you're cooking. Or alternatively, you could just create meals and freeze them, and they would be super easy meals for you to take out of the freezer later, thaw, and enjoy when you are at home. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We're going to let that continue to cook. And then I want to talk a little bit about what I have right here. Oh, hi, Randy. How's it going? Oh, thank you. So today we're making 2 meals out of ground meat. And so we're going to do a beef and broccoli, and we're going to do taco meat. So I'm starting off by just browning all of the meat in one pot at one time, or one skillet, and then we're going to separate it later to season it. And that's just going to save so much time and effort later. So for the beef and broccoli, all we're going to do is make a really quick and easy sauce that we're going to put over the ground meat once it's cooked, and that will season it perfectly. So we're going to start off with 1/3 of a cup of soy sauce. You could use light soy sauce or like reduced sodium soy sauce. You could even use coconut aminos, which is kind of like an interesting alternative to soy sauce if you don't like the gluten, because there is some gluten in soy sauce. You could also use tamari, which is another kind of soy sauce but doesn't have the gluten. Let's see, Randy said, I never thought to use ground meat for those types of Asian dishes. Love that idea. Thank you, Randy. Okay, so we have the soy sauce in our little measuring cup. I'm going to take 2 cloves of garlic. And on my cutting board down here, I'm just going to use the side of my knife to crack open the shells so that we can easily remove the garlic skin. Well, not shells, but the skin of the garlic. And that's going to come off really easily, like so. Let me do the next one. Now, if you didn't have fresh garlic, you could absolutely use garlic powder. I actually am going to use garlic powder here for the taco seasoning, but it's just, I have garlic, I wanted to use it up, and I feel like fresh can give so much more flavor than dry, but absolutely use what you have. No big deal at all. Okay, so the second garlic clove is all peeled, and then what we're going to do is just slice it up. You don't need to mince it or anything. This is a super easy sauce. So just carefully slice it into relatively thin slices. And then what I'm doing too is I have my whole area here set up for success. And really, half of meal prepping is just planning ahead so you know what you're going to do next. I'm using what I call a pastry scraper. You may have seen these before, but that's going to help me transfer anything that I cut up really quickly, so I don't need to be making multiple trips. And I'm just adding the garlic into our little measuring cup. And then we need some ginger. So this is actually, it looks like fresh ginger, but it's actually out of the freezer. And this is a really great tip for you if you get one of those big hunks of ginger root and you're like, I'm never going to use this before it goes bad. Put it in the freezer. It freezes so well. And what's great is you can use a grater. This is just a little microplane. Use a grater to grate it over the bowl. So I'm going to use it to grate over a measuring cup. And what we want to do is take about an inch of this ginger and grate it into the measuring cup. So what's cool about when you freeze it, obviously it helps to keep the ginger in a usable state for whenever you need it. But also when you grate it, it's a super fine powder, almost like snow, if you can imagine that. And so it's so easy to grate. And it just makes it makes the ginger dissolve into the liquid that you're putting it in so quickly, so easily, and you never waste any ginger. Yeah, bud. Okay. Got a drink bottle emergency here. There we go. Okay, so we're almost there. We're going to grate a little bit more of the ginger into the bowl, and I can smell the ginger already. I love the scent of ginger. I think it's so aromatic. Well, it smells so good, and I love it in Asian cooking because it just adds so much more to the dish, especially when it's fresh or like frozen and then grated. It adds so much flavor. I highly recommend just grabbing a little piece of root ginger and putting it in your freezer for whenever you're making an Asian dish. It adds so much to it. So I'm going to give the ground meat a bit of a stir. It's about halfway cooked right now, so it's really coming along nicely. And I'm going to continue to break it up and like kind of turn it over because you know how the underside of the meat gets brown and the top side is still pink. So keep breaking it up, and we're going to just cook it all the way. Whoops, my rice is overflowing. Oh, I told you that would happen. I always have to keep such a close eye on it, but inevitably at some point I overflow the pot and then I have to clean it up. So no big deal if that happens. Okay, so this is looking good. Let that keep going. Okay, so the last thing we're going to add to our little sauce for our beef and broccoli is just a teaspoon of sweetener. I'm going to use some monk fruit sweetener. So the point here is to add a little bit of sweetness to help to balance out the saltiness of the soy sauce. And Randy's story of my life. Yes, so that happens sometimes. It's not a big deal. So we're going to use the sweetener to balance out the saltiness of the soy sauce and the savoriness of the ginger and the garlic. And so we're getting that really great balance of flavors throughout the whole sauce. And that's what really keeps your taste buds interested in the meal. So I love that. That's so good. And that's the sauce. Literally, that's it. All we're going to do later, once we've separated the meal out, or the meat out into two separate dishes, is we'll use the sauce over the top of the meat with the broccoli, and that's it. So, so easy. Yay. Oh, yeah. Randy said about the overflowing pot. Yeah, I do it all the time. Don't worry. Okay, so that's the beef and broccoli all ready to go. And then what we're going to do next is we're actually going to mix up the taco seasoning. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently. So normally, like if you made taco meat before, you like have it in a pan and then you add or you spice it into it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get my resealable container that I'm going to be putting the taco meat in. I'm going to put all of my seasonings into that container so that when I divide the meat up, it's going to go straight into the container and we can mix it up while it's still hot with all of the seasonings. So this is my container. And then for our really easy taco seasoning, we're going to start off with chili powder. I think I have, let me grab a tablespoon measure. So we need a tablespoon of chili powder. And this is literally my favorite taco seasoning. Sometimes when you get taco seasoning from the store, which you can absolutely get, like no big deal if you want to use something from the store, is that I feel like it's really salty. And this one does not have very much salt in it at all. Okay, next up we're going to use a teaspoon and a half of cumin. I love that smoky flavor of the cumin. It's so, so good. Okay, let me grab a measuring spoon. This is a half teaspoon measure. So I'm going to get 3 of these for a teaspoon and a half. 2, and 1 more. Then we need oregano. I love putting oregano in pretty much everything. I might have a problem and I'll need an intervention later. So we need a teaspoon of oregano. So 2 of these half teaspoon measures. 1 more. And then, whoopsie, dropped it. We just need half a teaspoon of black pepper. And I have some black pepper here, which I just actually keep next to the stove because I use it all the time. So black pepper and some garlic powder. And I actually feel like this garlic powder adds so much flavor. You don't even really need salt. So I choose not to add salt now, but when you're serving it, if you feel like you need some salt, then by all means, go ahead and do that. So just a teaspoon of garlic powder. And that's literally it. That's your taco seasoning. Literally so easy to make. You can make a big batch of this and just keep it in like an old spice container so that whenever you make tacos or any kind of meat that you would use for tacos, just use that taco seasoning. And all I'm doing now is I'm just mixing it all together in this container, and literally it's ready to go for whenever the meat is ready. So it smells so good. Yum. Okay. Super excited about that. So good. Okay. Meat's looking good here. I'm going to give it another stir. Yay. It's really close to being done. Yum. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is our veggies. So obviously, because we're doing beef and broccoli, we're going to be cutting up some broccoli. Now, if you don't want to cut up your own broccoli, I know at the grocery store, they have pre-cut broccoli that's also been washed. So you can absolutely use that. They also have frozen broccoli that you could use. Nothing wrong with that. Frozen vegetables are usually frozen at the peak of their ripeness or of their freshness. And so it's actually a really great option and cost-effective option if you can't find fresh or, you don't want to have it go bad in your freezer, in your fridge before you're ready to use it. Okay, so while that finishes cooking, we are going to cut up some broccoli. So I have some giant heads of broccoli here. Look at this. So good, right? It looks so beautiful. All I'm gonna do is cut out the florets. So I'm just gonna use my knife to carefully go around the broccoli to cut up the florets. So my knife is very sharp, so I definitely don't wanna hurt myself. So I'm just gonna keep a close eye on it. Now, if you didn't like broccoli, you could really substitute any kind of vegetable into this dish. I mean, I feel like everyone likes carrots, so carrots are always a great option. You could use green beans, that would be really good as well. Even if you wanted to just throw in some mushrooms and onions, I think that would be an amazing combination as well. All I'm doing here is I'm actually taking some of these larger broccoli florets and just cutting them in half or into 3. Because I don't want them to be too big. I know that, the kids are going to be eating this. If it's too big, they're going to have trouble taking bites of it. So I want it to be in relatively small bite-sized chunks, but, you do you. If you like big pieces of broccoli, go ahead. Ta-da! Okay, so all of my broccoli is cut up now. And you can see how easy it is to do this at home by yourself. Another thing you could do is if you're able to get broccoli like on sale, then because broccoli is such a hearty vegetable, what you can do is, take it off of the stalk, cut it into these florets, and you could freeze it. And you would have your own homemade broccoli, frozen broccoli. So this is such a great option when any kind of vegetable is on sale, especially during the summertime. Things like sweet corn or berries are on sale. And so you can get them super cheap, wash them, cut them up if you need to, freeze them yourself. And it will actually save you a bunch of money in the long run because you'll always have those veggies ready for you. And you got them when they were really inexpensive and also in the season of their best growing. Okay, this is looking so good. And guys, we're almost done. We're already 17 minutes into this live. I did spend a few minutes chatting at the beginning, as usual. But actually, you know what? I think that we're ready to divide this meat in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break up some of these larger chunks that I still have in my skillet. And then I'm going to literally just draw a line down the middle of my skillet. So I'm going to do it this way, just roughly, so we can roughly divide it in half. And we're going to grab our container that has the taco seasoning in it. Voila. And I'm going to put the beef, or in our case, the deer, directly into this container. Carefully do this. And what's great is that because the meat is hot, it's going to absorb those seasonings much faster, but it's already fully cooked, so we don't really need it to be on the heat while we do this. And then I'm going to show you my special trick for mixing up the taco seasoning with the hot meat. And this is just something fun that I do. Okay, whoops, overboard, there we go. Okay, so this is roughly divided in half. I'm going to turn down the heat because this was on high. I'm going to turn it down to medium. Okay, so we have our meat in here with our taco seasoning on the bottom. I'm going to put the lid on, and I bet you can't guess what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a shake. And you could totally get your kids to help with this because how much fun is this? Just shake. Oh, man overboard. Okay, give it a shake. And that's it. It's all done. You could obviously use a spoon to do it too if you didn't want to do this because obviously I made a bit of a mess because I didn't close it properly. So make sure you close it properly. But that's it. All done. Yay. Let me show it to you. Our beautiful taco meat ready for tacos. And then I'll show you what we're going to have with the tacos later. Oh, thanks, Randy. So now we're going to add in all of this broccoli into the meat that's left over in the skillet. So this is a huge head of broccoli. We're just going to throw in there. And we're going to add in our sauce that we made before. So this was the soy sauce, ginger, garlic, and a little bit of stevia or sweetener of your choice. Just throw that into the pot. I might turn up the heat a little bit more to get it sizzling. But all we're going to do is continue to cook the broccoli until it's crisp tender. Now, if you're not going to eat this straight away, I would probably even go less than crisp tender if you like it like that when you are eating. But if you want it to be really soft, then by all means, cook it to the level of softness for the broccoli that you prefer. But I like to have a little bit of the crunch still left on the broccoli to give the dish lots of flavor. So that's it. This is going to continue to cook for probably 3 or 4 more minutes, and that's it. Now, what are we going to have with the tacos? Well, we have the rice continuing to cook over there, but these are a bunch of different store-bought ingredients that you can get to make tacos even easier at home. Obviously, buy your tortillas. These are from my freezer, so I took them out to thaw. I love to get tortillas and just put them in the freezer because they thaw perfectly. Nothing wrong with that. And then also look for some canned vegetables to go with. So this is just some corn that I'm just gonna, this is my little trash bowl that I have that you couldn't see before. But when I talked about making sure you have your whole area set up, and I go into this in my course, 30-minute meal prep, it's really all about making sure you have somewhere close by that you can put your trash, making sure you have all of your ingredients ready to go so that you don't need to be like running to different areas of the kitchen trying to get stuff when you're in the midst of cooking. So just getting your area set up for like 5 minutes before you actually start cooking is a great way to keep you on track and set up for success. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drain the corn. And this is like such easy things that you could do, but it makes your life so much easier when it gets to the end of the day and you're like, what am I going to make? Well, you already have everything you need for tacos. You have your meat ready. You have your tortillas in the fridge ready to go. And you have like any number of sides. It could be corn. It could be black beans. I mean, we're going to have the rice with it too. You could even get some cherry tomatoes, which I have back there. The kids love to eat them. And, you know, wash them and have them ready to go. So all I'm going to do is we've drained the can, pour it into my little resealable container, and that's ready to go when we are. So now when we have tacos, we don't even need to do anything really additional. We just pull everything out, assemble our tacos, heat them up in the microwave with a little bit of rice, and that's our meal. That's one meal done. And now the only thing left to do here with our beef and broccoli is give it a bit of a stir. It's looking good. It's almost done too. I love when the broccoli gets to be like bright green. Ah, that makes me so happy. This is basically done, you guys. And that's our beef and broccoli. And then let me show you how we're going to store it. So if you're going to eat it right now, then obviously go ahead with the rice. I'm going to turn off the heat to our skillet. And then what I'm going to do is grab my container, and I will just like scoop all of this up into my container. I would let it cool down a little bit more before I put it into my fridge, just because when something's really hot going into your fridge, it can actually help to increase the temperature of the fridge, which means that it won't cool down very quickly. So you can just leave it out at room temperature for like 10 or 15 minutes till it gets cooler and then put it into your fridge. Same goes with your freezer. That's it. All done. It looks so good. Can you see it? Look at how bright green that broccoli is. So delicious. I love it. This is such an easy meal to make and like such a crowd pleaser too. So when you want to serve it, if you wanted to get real fancy with it, you could garnish it with some chopped up green onions or cilantro or even like some sesame seeds, just like shaken on top. That would be so good. It would really be like you're having it from a Chinese takeout box, except that you made it at home. And look how easy that was. Now the only other thing left to do is really just to check on our rice, which could actually be cooked right now. So I'm going to put this back here. And literally we have cooked 2 meals in 24 minutes. And I've done a lot of talking during that time. You know, something else that you could do to really maximize these 30 minutes is I have another head of broccoli right here. So I could just cut up this guy, put it into another container, another plastic container, and then later on in the week, if we need an extra side, you could steam it or you could have it raw in a salad. That would be a great option. Let me go ahead and check on the rice, but I think it's probably done. Yes, it is. So what's important to note, I just turned up the heat on the rice, but it's completely done. All of the water has been absorbed by the rice, which is awesome. So we know that it's cooked. What's great is that I actually used a white rice. White rice doesn't take as long to cook as brown rice does. So this is like a jasmine rice, a white short grain rice, and it takes about 20 minutes to cook. So that times us perfectly. If you wanted to use brown rice, that's totally awesome. Just know that it usually takes between 30 and 45 minutes to cook. Especially if you're using a rice cooker, you can just put that thing on and let it go. The other great thing about rice is that if you made a big bunch of it, what you can do is separate it out into different portions, and you could actually freeze it, and it thaws out so good. So such an easy meal to make. We have our rice that can be used for either our beef and broccoli or as a side for our tacos. We made obviously our beef and broccoli, which is cooling behind me. We made our taco meat. We have some awesome sides like this corn. We can cut up more broccoli. We have our tortillas. You could even use this time, because we have so much time left, to grate some cheese to go with your tacos later. You could wash extra vegetables, cut them up. But that's it, guys. We actually beat our 30-minute meal prep time limit, and I'm super stoked about it. So let me know, what questions do you have? This was so fun for me because I have not done a live 30-minute meal prep before, and so it was so good to be able to show you guys, just when you're using a few different tips and tricks, how you can really maximize what you're creating in the kitchen without, stressing yourself out, because these things were all really easy to make. They weren't like super fancy gourmet meals, but they were very flavorful and very healthy for you and your family. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me scroll down. Maybe you guys are commenting and I can't see it because I'm not scrolled down. Yep, you're right. Oh, hey, Jenna, how are you? Okay, so how long do you steam broccoli for? I feel like mine is always too mushy. Such a great question. So for me, when I do a head of broccoli like this and I cut it up into florets, it does depend on the size of the florets, but basically I do for between 3 and 4 minutes. And then I like it to not be super soft, so definitely keep an eye on it. 3 minutes for me would be the minimum. Usually when I go above 3.5 minutes, that's when it gets a little too soft for me, but it's still not mushy. So I would just try to do 3 minutes and then see where it goes from there. If you're cutting them up into really tiny florets, like let me just break one off here. I have no strength. I'm kidding. So this would be the size. This is about the size of a eating spoon. But if you do anything smaller than that, then the time that it takes to cook the broccoli is going to be less. So start off with 3 minutes if it's this size or bigger. If it's smaller than that, reduce the time from 3 minutes. Okay, let's have a look. Randy says, woohoo, thanks, great job. Gosh, I really just need to quit being such a whiner and just do the dang thing. Randy, you are hilarious. Thank you so much for being here and making me laugh today. That was totally worth it. So guys, once again, after this video ends, I'm going to post the link to my course, 30-Minute Meal Prep. In addition to getting awesome, quick and easy recipes like this every single month, you're going to get my 4-step plan to do exactly what I just did today. And as you can see, it's not complicated. It's not convoluted in any way. It's just simple steps to get yourself ready so that when you do start cooking, it's seamless, it happens super quick, and you can be confident about the results because you've set yourself up for success. So go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions, let me know. I definitely want to answer them. Tomorrow is our last day of meal prep Q&A. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all. Or just send me a DM. And then also, guys, if you are interested in purchasing the course, let me know, because I will send you a 25% off discount code, because I am just such a believer that meal prepping can help people. Meal prepping can help you not feel frustrated at the end of the day. What am I going to make? Let's take that out of the equation. Let's get ourselves set up for success so that we don't have to feel like that. Especially when we're doing all the things right now, especially for me as a mother, I'm not only mothering, I'm a homeschool teacher. I'm the PE teacher. I'm the counselor. I'm also the caretaker and the chef. So I got all the things to do, but I don't want to be spending all of my time worrying about making sure everyone has healthy and delicious meals on the table. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining me. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you again tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central for another meal prep Q&A. See you later.